This is the intro. This book comes from a loving place. By the way, I'm just trying to mark it right now, although it still has another round of revisions. This book comes from a loving place. Life is hard and so goddamn beautiful. We share in this paradoxical experience. How we are alive at all is both confusing and miraculous. Our minds must come home to the grounding of our bodies. So when I pause, these are all paragraphs. They're very short paragraphs. I hope you feel kindness on these coming pages. At times, I know this book may be challenging. I want kindness because I want it for myself, both in my past and my present. Trauma and loss upended my life as a boy. Eventually, they visit everyone's life. I wish I could offer my younger self more kindness as he set about surviving. I would wordlessly sit next to his hospital bed. At the right times, I would ground his feet and ankles, gently touch the center of his chest, and then put my hand on his forehead. I would show him where his body is and then remind him to breathe. I want him to feel that he is not alone in the emptiness that envelops us. In fact, I want him to know that the emptiness can also enliven. I want the same for you. In my first book, A Memoir of Awakening, a memoir of trauma and transcendence, I wrote, quote, I've never seen anyone become truly more compassionate aware of his or her body without also becoming more compassionate. As a yoga instructor, I've watched this occur repeatedly in myself and others. During a 2006 radio interview on her syndicated show on Bean, Krista Tippett read that line aloud, chuckled, and then asked me quizzically, what's that about? Little did she know that the question would lead me to write two books. The first one sits quietly on my computer. I am fond of it, but it feels flawed. I am grateful to the feeling body, a healing story into compassion, because it was a stepping stone to this bolder, less orthodox attempt to answer that question. This book is not directly about compassion and nonviolence. Instead, it aims at the energetic experiential realization of consciousness that underpins them. This realization is an integrative one, not a moral one. It connects us more profoundly to our own bodies, the body that is earth, and all the emptiness in between. It makes us process our losses and our gains, our hardships and our successes, our mortality and our beauty. This book explores the integration and realization of the empty part of our experience. One aim is to live and transform this emptiness into a paradoxical form of connection. I don't mean emptiness as a thought or a notion or a philosophical doctrine. I mean it as a felt sensation accessible to our nervous system and one that travels through both body and mind. That we are self aware of the emptiness we carry, that our inherent emptiness causes suffering and expands the potential of our consciousness, is part of what makes us uniquely human. Why does this matter? Why realize the sensation of emptiness more directly through our consciousness? On a personal level, such realization can improve the quality of your life and help you with stress. It can add more dimension and meaning while allowing hardship to more easily pass through you. On a larger scale, a collective realization of our own emptiness makes the world a better place and perhaps helps human beings stay around on this planet a little longer. In my opinion, realizing more directly the emptiness within our experience is critical for ourselves and for this planet. The experience of emptiness presents a paradox for our minds. It is felt but has no direct content. For example, try to grab the empty space 12 inches in front of your face. Such a task renders the mind ineffectual. If learning to work from inside to out, the body and especially the spine does not suffer the same fate. Instead, the body plays a vital role in realizing the full potential of emptiness. The body brings emptiness to life. Don't worry if these words don't make sense yet. That is the job of this book. Have you noticed that human beings are generally traveling on a destructive path? We destroy and consume more than we create and grow. In some sense, this is inevitable, partly due to the energy requirements of our biology, but also due to how our minds process the experience of emptiness. What's extra worrisome now is that our destructive tendencies, bolstered by science and technology, can cause more damage than ever before. Another hard truth is that we've generally treated each other poorly along the way. We scrap and complete for survival. This made us a successful species early, but it didn't stop there. Our deep-rooted and ongoing survival instincts are ill-suited for processing emptiness. Because the drive to survive is perpetual, it pushes our inherent emptiness into the realm of insatiable desires. Lust for power, dominion, wealth, immortality, the wanting of more, and still more. Unfortunately, our experience of emptiness is part of the inherent configuration of our consciousness and is not ultimately satiable. Instead, the question we face is how to transform it, what revisions in ourselves might be necessary. Moral outrage is not enough to transform our mind's general tendency towards destructiveness. The problem is an internal energetic one, and it begins at our core. We must learn to transform the emptiness from inside to out. And this means more than psychologically, more than psychologically. Unfortunately, the stakes are high. We are like kids learning to ride a bike on a motorcycle. The profound irony is what gave us a survival advantage on those African plains way back when is also what makes us destructive, the development of our minds. Our minds struggle to process the experience of emptiness that underpins our expanding consciousness. Left alone with our inherent emptiness, minds tend towards exerting control and power as a means of grounding, and ultimately accelerates our tendency toward destructiveness. This book doesn't want to prove anything, only appreciate everything, especially the extraordinary feat of our bodies. Descriptions are what follows, not proofs. I hope to point to a different way forward, one that depends on each of us. I may be naive, but I believe a deeper appreciation of the human condition, of the paradoxical nature of our consciousness, combined with a better integration of mind and body, can help us adapt and survive on this beautiful life-enabling planet. We are a young species. Relatively speaking, we haven't had minds and bodies for that long. We are still learning how to integrate them on an individual level, let alone with the bodies that surround us. Most importantly, the bodies that is the body Earth. This book proceeds with an unshakable faith that we're capable of transformation. We can temper our mind's destructive tendencies and transform the emptiness that underpins them into a deeper connection with all things. The process must utilize our bodies more directly. A profound energetic realization of ourselves and our place in this expansive universe will help us evolve and survive. This energetic realization must depend upon direct experience, not simply beliefs. Beliefs will never be universal and eventually always lead to conflict and violence. By contrast, core body sensations are shared by everyone. For example, the feeling of your feet on the floor, a felt connection to your sitting bones, to the sitting bones on your chair seat, feeling a part of the whole room, a breath in, a breath out. Such practices can ground a more comprehensive realization of our place within existence. Our minds cannot do so alone. For example, an intellectual belief that breathing is important will not suffice. Doorways to appreciation are possible only because the body is already here and breathing, not because our minds believe that breath is important. In my life, I had some atypical traumatic experiences at a young age, ones that fell somewhere between the experiences of living and dying. I don't want them to be a major focus of this book, but they do matter. They are extreme, non-ordinary experiences that give context to what I'm writing and why it is worthy of your consideration. My traumatic experiences transformed me into a scout wolf within the mind-body relationship. I have some things I want to share, some things I want us to experience and contemplate together rather than alone. Let's begin. So just so you know, followed up on last week, the fact that the mind is disconnected some is its superpower and nothing to be regretted. Getting back to tell you, I'm not just dissing the mind in this book. I'm actually, it's the expansive part of our consciousness. It just channels energy that isn't exactly here. It's not as tangible, and human beings have fallen in love with it, right? And yet it's key to our continued survival. All right, so you thought you were just centering. So it turns out that, as you know, I try to get, that's why I kind of resist calling it the centering mindfulness or mindfulness breathing or all the things. It's like, because no, it's actually Patanjali is saying at a core level, if you can stop the judging frontal cortex part of your mind, existence reveals itself as a sensation. And I've been telling you that emptiness is an energy source. And I've been proving to myself and sharing with others that when you realize the emptiness in your nervous system, certain things get lighter and easier to move. Certain things change in your ability to balance and feel, right? It's not just waking up your mind, it's literally letting your mind let existence happen more. So sit up straight and tall. So I tell you all these things like prana rewards structure. Well, yeah, for sure. Your mind has to plant, otherwise, the mind will race, right? The mind isn't here in the same way your body is. So the body forms a stabilizing container for the mind to expand. So if you feel your feet and your sitting bones and you feel where you are in space, so I often give you things like feel what's below you, above you, on each side of you, right? Because I'm trying to use your proprioceptive ability, something that we just call proprioception, that we think about as literal, but no, your nervous system has a way to sense the empty space in the room and your orientation in it. But that needs to be grounded by a midline. So soften the jaw, the inside of your mouth, relax the skin on your forehead. Let the space in. Notice your inhale and expansion. You're filling and emptying empty space all the time. Somehow human beings fell in love just with their minds. And that drove them to purity, and it has to be extreme instead of what it is. Has anyone noticed that minds are ambiguous? That's their superpower. So the breath expands the rib cage into what? What's at the beyond the top of your inhalation? Everything. Exhale, and as you exhale, extend up through the midline. You can feel your sitting bones and extend beyond the top of your head. What the hell, Chuck? It's quiet here all the time. And then there's the chaos of your life. Asana is about realizing the emptiness in the effort. When effortful effort becomes effortless, you've encountered a new level of breathing. Broaden across your collarbones. Lift the sternum. Ground the sitting bones. Extend down through the inner heel. Fill the vessel. You're both empty and full at the same time. Good, and then release. Take your sternum up towards your chin down over your sternum. People that have been doing yoga way longer than us, for way more years, thousands of years, tell you that this position, this activity in the spine, this expansive rib cage, the grounding that comes from it, the core feeling of it is really important if you want to just feel the happening of existence. If you want it to line up, take it seriously. Raise your head up with closed eyes. Open your eyes. No, I wouldn't suggest Jatahara Bandha if you're trying to do calculus, right? Move around a little bit, right? You're going to have to be all over the place within your consciousness to get through life. My peanut butter toast and Jatahara Bandha didn't really go that well together, right? You're all over the place, right? And it turns out somehow human beings fell in love with like this energy that's less tangible. So we tell all these stories, which may be true, that it goes on forever. This intangible part goes on forever, for God's sakes. And the body's leading me astray. My body's leading me from the purity that makes me know how great the universe is. Are you sure? Holy cow. That seems frickin' nutball-y, right? Just kind of opening it up, just moving around like we always do. Like, yeah, like what the hell? I get to take up space. No matter how much you can move or not move, you live in space for God's sakes. Right? All this talk about emptiness and stuff. Well, it turns out we're 90% empty for God's sakes. All these modalities that try to get you to get quiet. I'm taking my legs wide. All these modalities that try to get you to get quiet and stuff. And then maybe even use it for healing and for grounding your mind and all this stuff. Well, it's just trying to utilize what we actually are, which is both part of our nature is both here and not here. The concept of self, like I was talking last week, the concept of self is an amorphous, unknowable dimension, right? Nothing's being hidden from you. It's all waiting for you to realize what's happening. And when you start to realize what's happening, I'm pretty sure you'll become less violent, right? The natural consequence of alignment with what's happening is compassion. That's one of the best arguments for divine energy I've ever heard. And I can see how it's true. And you thought you were just doing asana. Are you kidding me? You weren't just doing asana. You were exploring the entire ocean in a drop the whole time, right? I've decided, true spiritual life for me begins when I turn 60 next year. I'm thinking at that point, I'm just going to try to be more in love, right? With freaking everything. Why wouldn't you, for God's sakes? What the hell? I might be capable of doing it, right? Do you think love makes you vulnerable? That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard, right? It's just hard for the mind to do. In the afterword of the paperback of Waking, I say something that is really hard to tell the mom that my neighbor who just had her son die by suicide. Um, minds, hearts don't break, minds do. Oof. I think that might have been an overstatement. Except there's some truth to it, right? So sit up straight and tall. Take up the space. Learn how to fill your vessel from inside to out. So by the time you're moving, your vessel already has empty space in it, right? So you're actually trying to make your movements congruent with something. Instead of thinking that you're the originator of the movement, which is what human beings tend to do because we try to center ourselves a lot. You're not the originator of the movement. You're like you know how the wave comes in and then the crest of the wave comes up and it starts to turn to the white a little bit. in terms of existence and energy, we're like the crest of the wave, maybe. Like that's our face and our personality. But the wave started way before, right? Think about all the genetics and history that precedes you to this face, to this place, right? Okay, enough of all that. Inhale, take your arms up, except it's not enough of that. So this is what the book, I'm going to twist, go the other way. So this is the book is about, survival and stuff without being so heavy. Inhale, lift up, exhale, revolve. I'm going to wring out this thing because I'm pretty sure there's energy in my spine, that your spine is where the animation is. Remember, our spines preceded our mind, right? Inhale, lift up, exhale, revolve. I'm just sitting here like, hey, there's energy. And if you so imagine there's like, or just allow there to be light through your spine. And when you're twisting, some of it's bursting out. So then if you lift under your sternum a little bit and lift under your collarbones, more comes out this way. But don't let it just go this way. Make sure you use the burst up through your chest to go down through your sitting bones. Extend from the inner groin to the inner knee, down to the inner heel, and go, holy cow. Energy's bursting everywhere. There's a point in the book at the beginning of section 4 where I compare moving your spine like this to a tangerine. As you open up the tangerine after you peeled it and you open it up, you pull it open and the water and the smell bursts into the air. What if something like that's happening, right? In your spine? Because it is, right? Our energy in our spine doesn't smell as good as a tangerine, but we got time to evolve, maybe. Inhale, lift up, exhale, revolve. Again, I'm creating some tension so something moves and bursts more into the room. So it turns out they say things like this will help you detox, that twist will, might help you transform grief because it moves and brings life to energy that's static. Lift under the collarbones, lift the sternum, burst this way, but use the same burst to go down through your sitting bones from the inner groin, inner knee to inner heel. And then use your breath to amplify the happening. Good, and then release. So I kind of think those like beginning, we don't want to do a full back bend right now, but that beginning back bend to get this energy out in the space out this way, because I can trust the empty space in my room. Minds can't trust empty space, by the way, because it can't control them. The only way minds ground is through control, right? Inhale, lift up, extend back. As you exhale, broaden across the collarbones, broaden across the sacrum. So again, inhale, expand the chest cavity, broaden across the sacrum. On exhale, go a little farther into the back bend. Good, and then come on back to center. I feel like there's something invigorating and sometimes clarifying about a back bend. Doesn't the world seem a little bit better when the smell of the tangerines in the room? Right? Maybe it's not a tangerine for you. Maybe it's a lemon, right? The only drawback of apples is they don't smell quite as good, usually. So now I'm going to come forward and bring more earth into the back bend. So I'm going to lean forward, put my forearms on my thighs. Not that we're going to do this today, but as I do this and I clasp my hands, I'm giving a little nod to Shirsasana headstand. What? Yeah, why wouldn't I? Why wouldn't I just do a little drive-by and wave to it, right? And then instead, I'm going to go the other way and I'm going to feel my sitting bones, feel down to my feet, connected through my legs, start to hit down through my sitting bones, extend through my chest, starting to lift up my collarbones. So now the same back bend that just went back and over your chair with more air and space, now is growing right out of the earth. Inhale, broaden across the collarbones. Exhale, do it even more. So you're really trying to open the hood of the chest, right? But you're trying to watch what happens over the rest of your body. Remember, you're trying to figure out a pure observer of the happening. And it comes not from your eyes, it comes from way farther in your head. The pure observer is way deep. It does not judge. And then release. There's a place that's aware without judgment. Problem is, can you have that place that doesn't judge, right? Without your frontal cortex? It's tough. So notice, take your hand. I'm going to take out my glasses. I'm going to put it on my forehead. I'm going to calm my frontal cortex a little bit, right? So I'm going to put my heel of my hand right on the bridge of my nose, and then gently lay my fingers down. And right away, I kind of want to go to sleepy zone, right? Because my frontal cortex is going offline, right? So we do this to people that get really for people that are really agitated. It's a good life skill to calm down the frontal cortex, right? So you're kind of doing that, right? Now, as I do that, and I'm leaning forward and I'm grounded and I'm balanced, right? Got my arm on the table. So I don't know if you're grounded enough, right? I'm grounded a little bit. Now I'm going to do a little secret with the universe because the universe doesn't deny me anything, right? So I'm going to actually do that, go calm, and I'm going to spark the center of my chest as I lift it. I'm going to do it real sneaky like. I'm going to animate, but I'm going to try to keep this quiet. Can I spark life and keep it quiet? I don't know. How would I know if I were doing it right? I don't know the answer to that. Then release. I don't know the answer to that, but I do know. Here's what I do know for sure. If you practice it, you'll get better at it. And then you won't be able to decide what the hell means getting better at it. And then you'll try to tell it to someone else and they'll think you're crazy, right? That's okay. They don't know what they don't know. I'm going to try it again. I'm going to go quiet. I'm going to go inward and I'm going to spark life through my spine because I want the emptiness to be with me and I want to invigorate life through it. That's what your body does every moment of every day. It sparks life through what is quiet and not as there. So you're going to go here. Gonna let it calm, makes me smile. I kind of like the calm energy. Now I'm gonna do my little secret sternum of life, right? Lifting it up. I'm going to practice something that most of the world's going to think, what the hell? You're so weird. Except I know it's a secret. I'm going to make sure I breathe equally through each nostril. I'm going to breathe into each lung. I'm going to spark life in the center of my chest from the seat of consciousness. I'm going to try to have the emptiness without judgment, without so much of the frontal cortex. And then I'm going to breathe and let my body go into my breath go into my whole body. Good. And then come on out of it. We went pretty far. I always went pretty far, so I have to be careful coming out. So I'm curious, when you did that and you sit here for a second, does anyone feel a little tingly? Can you tell? What the fuck? It's crazy shit. Your nervous system is waiting for existence. It's been waiting for your mind to figure out what's happening. And as human beings, this level of experience does not require beliefs. That's the whole point of my book, right? It's the great, and it's the core of adapted yoga. So now I'm going to take this energy and now I got to dance with it a little bit, right? Because this energy, you got kind of quiet, like something, it's almost like you're, oh shit, I almost went to sleep while staying awake, right? So now you got to gently move it around again because it's got to be in bigger movements. Question is, can I be everywhere at once without losing my center? The answer is yes. You can be everywhere at once if you have your center, right? It's not about maintaining your center. The only way to be everywhere at once is to stay centered. So imagine these yogis, and they were men and women, by the way, and they're sitting in the dirt and their spines, they're in simple cross-legged or in lotus, and their spine is really connected to the earth. And all of a sudden, they have this kind of sensation and they go, holy crap, I'm integrated with the whole universe. That's what's true. Now, asana develops, I think, because yogis got a little bored. They wanted to prove shit to their neighbors, right? So they went, can I keep with that sensation as I move in bigger spheres of movement? Has anything changed with my movement? Their answer will be no, it hasn't changed with your movement. Human beings think it does because we center ourselves, right? We center our perspective. All right, so now I'm going to combine. I really like this twist. I want to come forward, so I'm trying to get. So notice we did this back bend, right? I like doing this kind of sequence on Mondays, right? So I'm back this way. That's one kind of back bend. Now I'm coming forward, and we're doing the more earth back bend, right? Spark in, spark out of the earth. But I'm not just I'm putting my forearm across my legs here, and I'm grabbing my opposite knee, right? So I've got my bones making sure I stay connected to the earth. I've got my hand either on my foot, my armrest here, but I'm going to actually put it on my thigh, right? Because I'm going to keep my thigh not falling out this way. I'm going to keep my femur bone in towards the midline, right? But not just, most of you that have control over your leg, you can actually move it with your muscle, but don't just move your muscle towards the midline. Move your bone. So put your hand on your thigh and move your bone in towards the midline. Grab this, grab this. So when I've got not just my muscle going inward, but I've got the bone going inward with my on my thigh. I don't know if you can see what I'm doing, right? So all these little tricks, right? I got my hand on the outside of my thigh, grounded, making sure that Tadasana stays. I've got my hand on my knee, right? I've got my forearm, this bone to this bone. I've got a triangle, right? This down to my heels, right, is gonna, and then down, including both my sitting bones. I've got quite a freaking base here, right? I'm gonna drop my shoulder blades down my body, make sure I tuck my shoulder blades in. So as soon as I start doing this, can you feel yourself twisting before you even try to twist? And then release and let it go away. Remember, the pose begins before the mind notices. So I'm going to do it again. Get this into Tadasana, right? Get my femur bone in. And then even if you can hold it, then engage your muscle. Grounding on my knee, grounding on my other femur with my elbow. And now I'm going to start to turn. I'm going to tuck this shoulder blade under, which is going to bring energy out through the bursting part of the tangerine, right? I'm going to stay connected to my sitting bones, but not from my frontal cortex, from way behind my eyes. I'm going to stay connected to my sitting bones. I'm going to inhale, lift up. I'm going to exhale. I'm going to revolve. I'm going to reconnect to the triangle. My hand on my thigh, my elbow on my femur bone above my knee, my hand on my knee, a femur bone, like this triangle. I'm going to find my sitting bones from inside to out. Inhale, I'm going to lift under my collarbones. Inhale, lift up. Exhale, revolve. And then I'm going to uncoil. Ooh. So I didn't want to hold that pose long because did anyone feel how intense that was? Right? That never leaves you. That potential is always here. The mind just has to learn to receive it. right? So now I better do the other side. And I already have to quell my disappointment because the other side I don't twist as well into. That's my body, right? I don't know if you got a better side, a side that you can more easily feel. But I know when I twist this way because of my scoliosis, my pelvic obliquity, I have to earn the sensation more. So this side's going to demand more yoga from me. I'm going to go down. I'm going to grab my knee. Now on this side, it's a little bit harder to hold. Well, it's still pretty good. I'm almost tempted to use because my body's different, I'm tempted to use my armrest, but I missed the touch on my bone. So I'm going to push my bone in too. I'm going to get the same triangle. But I could do it here, and this would be smart too, right? But I'm going to do it here. So I'm going to know that I've got a weird tripod for headstand, but I'm not doing headstand, I'm doing a twist, right? So now I'm going to hit down through my sitting bones, rise up to the center of my chest, know that I'm making light come out of my spine, but I'm doing it from the earth, right? And I'm coming in, and I'm inhaling, lift up, exhale, revolve. As I lift my sternum, I drop through my sitting bones down to my feet. I use my breath to amplify the happening. Got the bones happening, I got the earth happening, I got the tangerine bursting. Got a lot of shit going on here. And I'm going to take the outside of my, because it's a harder side for me, I'm going to take the outside of my mouth up towards my ears. And I'm going to be grateful because only the work is your privilege. Inhale, lift up, exhale, revolve. Good, and then release. Line from the Bhagavad Gita. If you don't know, that's a line from the Bhagavad Gita. I always have to coax myself to not get impatient on my hard side, right? So the truth is, I want my one side to feel like my other side, right? And then I have to remind myself, it's where the mind's so powerful. Hey, no, mind, only the work is your privilege, right? Only the work, not the fruits of the labor. Because I don't know, has anyone noticed being alive is a lot of work, right? It's awesome. It's freaking awesome. But it's got some work involved, right? So my dad would take my family and insist on us going to the BWCA, the Boundary Waters Canoe Area, and which is like there's no toilets or anything. You're up there, you're portaging, you're chopping your own firewood and stuff. I didn't love it as a little kid. I got injured when I was 13, so this is like from the time I'm 9 to about 12. And I'm thinking, God, this is a lot of work. But now when I think about the BWCA, I think about having to earn everything. It's a great thing about camping. So I'm moving around, keep moving around, right? Right? You have to earn everything. And there's something really smart about earning everything. And then it helped me one day when I realized that living with a disability is kind of like being in the BWCA. Everything's earned. Everything's earned, right? More so. Getting dressed in the morning, emptying my bladder, everything is earned, right? Right. But no, I want this thing and I want that thing. Well, maybe it's the process that's the privilege, right? All right, so let's take up some more space. Let's get away from that twist and let's like do something more akin to trikonasana. Remember last week we did all this stuff about really trying to get the fact that in standing poses, you're learning how to work your legs in relationship to your spine, and then your arms are kind of like the window dressing, right? The problem with sitting in a chair and doing standing poses, besides the fact that it's an overt paradox, right? Right? Like people do. So when people teach standing poses, they often just, teach the arms and stuff. Like, no, you still got to get the legs working. So part of this idea of coming forward and getting that base, the sturdier base in the twist, we want to get that base and make it be in our standing pose, right? So I'm going to remind myself, because I'm going to use the fact that I live in multiple planes of time and I have memory. I'm going to come forward and grab my knee and do this whole thing again, right? So I'm putting my hand on my femur, my hand on my knee, my forearm on my other knee, and I'm not going to twist right now, though. We're going to do Parsva Konasana in a second, right? So we're close to side flank pose more than you know. Wasn't just a twist, because side flank pose has a twist in it, a really hard one. Good, and then release. Right, I was going to do Trikonasana before we did this, but now it's too late. I effed up the sequence, so now we're into Parsva Konasana in a second, right? So we're going to get this deep turn, right? So we're getting that base already, right? Good, and then release. So now, whereas Trikonasana goes like this and gets bigger this way into the ether, right? Right. And there is a twist in Trikonasana too. The belly rolls up towards the ceiling, right? I'm right on the edge of geeking out and showing you pictures of this, but it's too late in the class. So I'm getting the earth here. I'm getting it. So what happens in Parsvakonasana, instead of just being expansive, easy, right? It's going to take this arm over the head, right? Right? So instead of it being midline bursting, you're submerging your arm into the river midline. Now, what happens, what I just did wrongly, was when I started to take more weight on this down arm, I let my shoulder blade roll out, right? I buried the pose into this bottom shoulder blade by making it dull, right? So now I'm going to go up and over. Now, here's the crazy thing about, and don't go too far over unless you're not going to fall, right? Right? So now here's the crazy thing I'm going to tell you. Oof. So as I get this in the midline and I do the deep twist of the belly, the deep rotation of the belly, right? And I find my legs by turning my belly. Good, and then release. So we're going to do it that way one more time. But here's the crazy, so it's a little bit hard to get this when you're sitting in a chair. So even when I come out of this, is anyone humming again? Kind of feel that buzzy tingling stuff? You feeling that at all? Yeah, right? Because we're near the hub of the wheel. So Bika Sangar will tell you in Parsvakonasana, the brain of the pose. So he's got this idea of brains of poses where the whole thing works from a certain place of consciousness, right? Turns out he says that the brain of the pose is the upper shoulder girdle. Now, what the hell does that even mean? Well, let's go find out, right? Down, over, right? Right, so that's kind of a version of Trikonasana, right? We're gonna go over. Now, I'm telling you, keep the bottom shoulder blade tucked in. He's saying the brain is up here, right? Oh, if I keep the bottom shoulder blade tucked and I think about turning from there, does anyone feel the pose spark differently? Right? Because the upper shoulder girdle is actually being more involved, not just the grinding of the lower shoulder girdle. Good. And then release. Ooh, because if I make it just the bottom inner edge of the shoulder blade, I'm grinding too much in the dirt. Because the pose is opening and revolving into the ether, even though you're in the midline. So the spine is bursting, the pose open, not your arms. Okay, now we got to go the other way. We have to do it a couple times. So I'm going to go down, boom. I'm going to remember the tripod headstand, right? I'm going to remember the grounding in the earth. I'm trying to keep it, right? So here's this hard, this side's going to be way harder for me, right? I'm way more off balance. So I already know I'm sacrificing, I'm sacrificing group balance, which knows I'm not doing as much yoga. So I have to be careful about how I do this. So I'm not going to grab my knee anymore because I have to choose balance and safety over. So I'm going to go over this way, but I'm going to do the same thing. See, now I can maybe grab there. I got it now that I can feel it, right? No, I'm going to let it go again. Okay, so now I'm going to get the bottom shoulder blade tucked, but this bursting open like the tangerine, making my spine elongate to burst energy skyward from my spine, not from my limbs. Good, and then release. We're gonna go that way one more time. So have you noticed that in the practice of your life, you're likely more aware of your arms and your legs more than your actual spine? You notice you don't really have that much connection to your spine, to the actual vertebrae, right? I wonder why. Human beings have been moving their arms. That's how we pick oranges off and tangerines off the trees, right? Except that puts us not at our core, right? Interesting. Okay, I'm gonna go and get the base again. Hopefully I can do this second time better because I know what I'm gonna be up against here this way, right? I'm gonna go up and I'm gonna submerge my arm into the midline without losing balance. See, I'm struggling here. Without losing balance. Now I'm going to trust BK Sengar and say, the brain's here. I don't have as much earth in this pose. My base isn't as good. That's okay. But that's just my body, not yours. Turn everything skyward from the spine, not from the arms. Good, and then come on up. Be in the center. Damn, I got work to do over here. So I'm gonna try this just because now I'm being a yogi. I'm showing you what it is to be a yogi in the middle. Like I didn't do that side as well. So I'm gonna forget the arm part here. I'm gonna lean over this way. And I'm gonna keep, instead of taking my arm over in the midline and going this, which maybe some of you can do easily, I'm gonna have the midline without my arm extend my spine out through the top of my head, right? Instead of having to be my arm. So I'm going to stay more on balance, right? And go through my spine and know that if my arm was able to balance and move, I'd be directing it into that stream, right? That's here, right? But in order to, because I can't do it all at once very well, I'm going to do it and get that arm in the stream. Remember, I say you got more than one set of arms. I'm going to do that on this last one. I'm going to hold myself with this arm, but I'm going to let the other set of arms go into the midline stream. And see, this is better. This is a better Prasvakanasana. Good, and then release. But my mind wants the other one, right? I want to do it from like the other side because damn it, it's not. So maybe to satiate the other part, I'll just do the other one quick again, going like, I'll do it. And oh, wow, I'm doing it better now. Holy shit. I like that. I'm hitting a home run here. That's why you sequence stuff. So I get to have it all. I just don't have to do it as intensely. I can do more of the outside of the pose. Good, and then come on back to center. So I don't know about you. Maybe it's because I was talking, um, but I'm a little bit out of breath. My diaphragm got a little bit exerted there. So I'm going to come forward and I'm going to again go back to the setup for headstand, the grounding of my clasping my hands, using the grounding of my forearms on my femur bones, right? The connection here. And I'm just going to use the empty silence here, that even though my nervous system has just done a lot of weird stuff, I'm going to go back to where I started and know that the quiet here, even though I'm vibrating some, the quiet's still there. So I'm reorganizing the emptiness again and letting my mind touch it again, because I'm going to want that emptiness to be leading in Shavasana. So I'm paying attention to my base, my forearms, my feet on the pedals, my hands together. I'm going to get soft lips together, teeth slightly apart, go inward through the mouth. I'm going to do that little secret with the universe. It's kind of like for me, I used to always wear colorful boxers and no one knew. My little secret is in that quiet, I can lift my sternum. There it is. That space was always here for me to occupy. So now I'm preparing for Shavasana by getting my bearings in my vibrating nervous system. I'm going to start to soften my eyes even here right now. So I'm heading towards Shavasana, but I'm keeping a little bit of extension in my spine. So I'm not doing Shavasana yet. I'm preparing for Shavasana. Good, and then release. So now I'm going to get full blown thinking about Shavasana, right? Oof. Like, yeah, you know how you fluff up a blanket and let it drop back on your bed? You know, if you're a mom that was really good at fluffing blankets, it's a serious skill. I've never fully mastered it, partly because I can't stand and do it, but fluff your blanket and land in your chair. And the bed holds up the blanket, but the blanket, because you fluffed it up, has more space in it, right? And so you want your space supported in Shavasana. Lips together, teeth slightly apart. Close the eyes, but let them sink into the cheek, under the cheekbone. Relax the belly to relax the throat. Your mouth is a cave. The chair is holding you up. Feel your breath. Don't change it. Start to bring yourself back. Slightly deeper inhalation, slightly longer exhalation. Get to go in and out of focus. But the body's never not focused. It's always doing its focus on keeping you alive. Right? So as I come back from Shavasana, can I come back and think of the emptiness as the bursting sunlight, like out of the spine and a back bend? But the emptiness is here. It's not just sunshine that comes out of here. Because we go in and out of phase, we are kind of like a flickering light, right? And so it's like, you think about the light being what flickers. Well, maybe it's the darkness that's flickering through the light, not just lightness flickering against the darkness. Breath in, breath out. Well, I got to figure that was like a 59-minute, now we're up to 60-minute ride tour to Gilligan's Island, right? Don't get shipwrecked. Hands together. Namaste. Spirit in me bows the spirit in you.